Hi everyone, what's for dinner? It's a collab hosted by Angel McMillan. So go check out her video and all the other participants, and I'll leave the playlist down below. So what's for dinner? Well, I decided I wanted to do a slow cooker dinner. So I asked Dave, what do you want for dinner? He goes, oh, barbecue ribs sounds good. Well, I didn't really want barbecue ribs. I was sitting there thinking more of like a stew. So why not fix both in the same crock pot? And I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. So what all goes into the slow cooker ribs for one? 2 teaspoons paprika, 1/2 teaspoon chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 teaspoon sugar, 1/2 teaspoon coarsely ground black pepper. I'll be using fresh ground pepper. 1/2 teaspoon garlic powder. 1/2 rack of baby back ribs, 6 to 7 ribs. And 1/2 cup barbecue sauce. I'll be using Jim Beam's Smoky Barrel barbecue sauce. And to go with the slow cooker ribs, we need a side dish. So I'll be making sweet corn with sage. We'll need 3 tablespoons butter, 1 medium onions finely chopped. I just have a small onion, so that'll have to do. 2 bags, 12 ounce each, frozen corn. These are only 10 ounce bags, but they'll work. 1/4 cup, half and half. 2 tablespoons chopped fresh sage leaves. 3/4 teaspoon salt. 1/4 teaspoon coarse black pepper, and again I'll be using the fresh ground pepper. And then what will go into the slow cooker beef stew, and I'll be making a half batch. So if you want to make a full batch, just double the recipe. 1 tablespoon olive oil, 1 pound stew meat in 1-inch cubes, salt and pepper to taste, 1/2 pound of baby red potatoes quartered, 2 carrots cut diagonally 1/2 inch thick, 1/2 onion diced, 2 garlic cloves minced, and I'm going to use the already minced, 1.5 cups beef broth, 1 tablespoon tomato paste, 1/2 tablespoon Worcestershire sauce, 1/2 teaspoon dried thyme, 1/2 teaspoon dried rosemary, 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika, and 1/2 teaspoons caraway seeds. Optional. I know I've got some, but I can't find mine, so I'll be doing without that. 1 bay leaf, 1/8 cup flour. So let's begin. Salt and pepper your beef to taste. Over medium heat, heat your olive oil. Then add your beef and cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes until evenly browned. So while my meat is browning, I wanted to show you how I'm going to cook both meals in the same crock pot. We have these little half baskets that fit in your slow cooker. So you can fit your one meal in one side and your other meal in the other side. You just want to make sure that you have a recipe for like about a 3-quart crock pot. The other thing that you need to do is make sure that you have a recipe that you do both low or both high on, and they need to be cooking for the same amount of time. I don't know if this gets done, how well that will work having this heated empty space. So my suggestion is to have 2 dishes that cook the same amount of time. Now I'm doing 2 main dishes. You can do a main dish and a side dish. You can do a main dish and a dessert. Possibilities are endless as long as they cook the same amount of time and on low or high together. And I'll leave a link to this down below. So on this side we'll put our stew in. So we put your meat in there. We'll put our potatoes in there. Then put your onions in there. And then put your carrots in there. Put your garlic in there. So we'll take our 1.5 cups of beef broth. the 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, the 1/2 tablespoon of Worcestershire, the 1/2 teaspoon of thyme and rosemary, 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, and then mix that all together. Pour the liquid into that. And salt and pepper, a little bit more. And I forgot 1 bay leaf. Let's get started on the spare ribs. For the ribs, we need to make a rub. So you want to mix your 2 teaspoons of paprika, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. And mix that together. So take your 1/2 rack of baby back ribs, and that is 6 to 7 ribs, and we have, I think, 8. Remove the silver lining if they have it. If you don't, that's okay, just don't put your rub on it. And if you don't remove it, you want to just slice on the back side between each rib. So let's put a rub, do generously amounts. And don't be afraid to use a lot. That's what's going to give it its flavor. Get the sides as well. Get the ends, almost forgot the ends. So take your slow cooker and spray with non-stick cooking spray. So you want to take your ribs and put the meat to the side of the, I'm hoping, I'm going to have to kind of slide him down like that so he fits. You want to stand him straight up with the meat side to the side and the bones to the inside. You want to do that so it doesn't wallow in its juices and it's nice and delicious. So we have our stew in this side, we have our barbecued ribs in that side. Put on your lid, turn it to low, and cook both of them for 8 hours. I'll be back in 7. We need to do a little bit more for the ribs and for the stew. So I'll see you in 7 hours. So it's been 7 hours. For the stew, we'll put in our 4 tablespoons or 1/4 cup of flour and 1/4 cup of the stew juice. It does have some onions in it, but hopefully that won't matter. Oh, it's got a couple carrots too. Stir that up. And I'm adding just a little bit of water to it because it's kind of thick. Now normally for this stew you would put it in for 15 minutes on high, but since we've got the ribs on there for low, I'm just going to put this in for the whole hour on low. We'll dump in the stew juice and the flour, so that will thicken up the stew. Like I said, we'll let it go an hour on low. I do want to point out too, these have spouts in them and little handles, so it'll help you if you need to have like a soup you want to dump in a big serving bowl, then you can use the spout to get it out of the slow cooker. You can use these handles. While they're standing, of course mine's kind of laying slightly, we'll brush the barbecue sauce on both sides, probably on the top also. I won't do it on the bottom because it says you're supposed to do it while it's standing. Oh, that's looking really nice and brown and tasty. It looks like it's going to be nice and crispy. I think Dave's really going to like this. Put your lid back on and cook it for the last hour. So take a large skillet, and melt your butter over a medium-high heat. So dump in your 1 onion chopped and your 2 bags of corn, which are 12 ounces each, but mine's only 10 ounces. And cook that, stirring occasionally until the onions are tender. So the onions are tender. Add the rest of the ingredients. The 3/4 teaspoon of salt, the 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and I made it about a 1/2 teaspoon because I like pepper. The 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh sage leaves, and the 1/4 cup of 1/2 and 1/2. Turn the heat down to low. Simmer that for 3 to 5 minutes until all of the flavors are blended. So I'd like to thank Angel McMillan again for hosting the What's for Dinner collab. So here we are, what's for dinner? For me, I'm having slow cooker stew, and rounding out the meal is a honey butter biscuit. Now I'm going to have Dave do the taste test for mine as well as his. So what's for dinner for Dave? Slow cooker barbecued ribs, also cooked in the slow cooker at the same time. Sweet corn with sage, and rounding out the meal is a honey butter biscuit. Let's see what Dave thinks about this one as well.
Well, what's for dinner?
Well, I'm having the slow cooker stew, which I want you to taste test, and you're having barbecued ribs in the slow cooker that I cooked along with the stew, and also sweet corn with sage. So you'll taste the stew, the corn, and the ribs.
So this is like a shotgun taste test?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's good. And that's yours?
That's mine.
There's all kinds of goodies in the corn.
Not your plain everyday corn.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good too. I'll let you have the stew. I'm gonna eat the ribs.
I figured.
Recipe deals for easy meals. Please like, subscribe, and share. This is Cooking with Sherry. Until we meet again.